In this video, we're going to visit abandoned places and ghost towns in Southern California. This area is amazing and it's filled with endless sunshine. I didn't enter any of the big cities as I find the traffic rather difficult. Maybe I'll go next year. Rural Southern California also has a lot of very interesting people and places. You'll enjoy the visit. So let's begin. Our first stop is the Lake Dolores Water Park. It's an abandoned water park off Interstate 15 in the Mojave Desert. It's just off the exit for Howerin, California. The water park had operated under numerous names in the past. It began in the late 50s. The park saw its peak attendance between the early 70s and the mid 80s. It closed down the first time in the late 80s and reopened in 1990. The park closed again in the year 2000, but operated on weekends between 2002 and 2004 before closing for good. The property was recently being listed for sale for $11 million. And it still seems to be popular with tourists, as there had to have been about 24 people here while I was visiting. Our next stop is Howerin Springs. This is also located off Interstate 15 between Los Angeles and Las Vegas. This place was used until the 1990s. It's also a very popular spot with urban explorers. Because of its location, I wonder how many famous people may have visited here in the past. Like Mr. T, Sammy Hagar, Cheech and Chong. It does look like it's used for a parking spot for big rigs. Look at the turnstile. Our next stop is Baker, California. Its population is 523 people. On the eastern edge of town is this abandoned gas station. I'm not sure how long it's been abandoned for, but I would guess about 10 years. But what it's really famous for is this tiki-themed Royal Hawaiian Motel that opened in 1957. That was right about the same time they opened the interstate. It is now fenced off, but a couple years ago it wasn't. So I'm going to show you some footage I took from 2022. This motel closed down in 2009. I'm not sure what the new owners are going to do with this place, but I hope they restore it and return it to its former glory. Our next stop is also on Interstate 15. It's called Yuca Grove, California. Population 0. This place is a large gas station which probably also had a diner and did car repairs and maybe tires. There's a sign on it listing it for sale. I'm visiting Southern California from Saskatchewan, Canada. I'd love to know where you're watching from. Please tell me in the comments below. This is the bathroom. And that is a rather large garage. On the other side of the highway, there's a smaller building. I'm pretty sure this was a restaurant. I'm just guessing, but I bet this building has been closed since at least the 70s. And people use it to drop off garbage, unfortunately. And it looks like it had a fireplace. Our next stop is Amboy, California, population 4. This is also my favorite ghost town in all of California. The town began in 1883, and this is the most famous building in town, Roy's Motel and Cafe. There's still a handful of these old motel rooms that you can go inside and visit. This town boomed in 1926 with the opening of Route 66. And not long after, that's when this motel and cafe opened in 1938. The population increased to 65 people. But with the opening of Interstate 40 in 1973, bypassing Amboy, its economic clout dwindled. The school closed in 1999 due to lack of students. Roy's gas station reopened in 2008, and there have been talk about further renovations to the motel. Peace. This church opened in March of 1951 and closed down in 1970. It's kind of a weird place to just leave a couch. There is also one building in town that used to be someone's house. It says on the front window that it's the Wall family. And there is the old school. It's now behind a fence and is off limits. And yes, that is a volcano, not that far outside of town. This town is an amazing place to take photos. I hope you get a chance to visit while you're cruising down Route 66. Our next stop is Siberia California. Population 0. In fact, this is the only building that still kind of remains. The town was mostly used as a water stop for the railroad. And it's just up the highway from Amboy. Everything else here has been gone since the 70s. Like Amboy, this town was on Route 66, so when they rerouted the interstate, this town died quickly. Our next stop is Ludo California. This is another Route 66 ghost town. It was founded in 1882. The town started as a water stop for the railroad. Ore in the hills nearby led to the town's boom. But it really became a popular spot for visitors on Route 66. I have no idea what this building was, but because it's located right near the railroad tracks, I'm pretty sure it was probably a diner and maybe even a hotel. There is a motel and a couple gas stations still in operation here. This one, however, is not in operation anymore. This was the main residence and office for the motor court and motel that was once here. Generators, regulators, water pumps, and fuel pumps. And this looks like it was someone's house once. Our next stop is Desert Center, California. This town was founded in 1921. The post office is the only thing that's left in operation here. There's no gas and no food anymore. This gas station looked like it was probably abandoned about 10 to 20 years ago. And somebody left their wig. This looks like it was the hamburger stand. The owners of most of this town created a hamburger stand decades ago. This cafe closed down in the year 2012. It also had some amazing gas pumps, but they have been taken away now. The gas station here ran 24 hours a day without closing for decades. I really enjoyed this part of Southern California. It's pretty remote, but the air is wonderful. I'm kind of surprised that this town became a ghost town. The inside of the cafe still has all of its tables and chairs. I saw a picture of this market from a couple years ago. It appears as though it just recently caved in. One interesting fact about me visiting Southern California is that every time I come to Southern California while an LA team is in the playoffs, they end up winning the championship. A couple days after this, the Dodgers won. In 2022, the LA Rams won. And in 2014, the LA Kings won. I guess I'm a good luck charm. About 2 miles west of town is another gas station. It's right off the feeder road. Peace. Our next stop is Nillen, California. Forgive me if I pronounce that wrong. This town is near Slab City, which I'm going to cover in my next video. Right along the highway that comes into town, you're going to see a couple of abandoned buildings right along the main drag. The population of this town is 756 people, but according to Wikipedia, the population keeps dropping. I find that surprising because this part of Southern California is just amazing. This building clearly had recently had a fire. I also like this cafe sign. The cafe and building are long gone. But somehow this sign has survived. And for such a small town, I was amazed to see this massive commercial building that's abandoned near the railroad tracks. At one point, this was a bank with 7 businesses. It is truly magnificent. Of all the buildings I've seen in Southern California, I hope this one gets restored one day. Our next stop is Mecca, California. This is right along the Salton Sea. Here there's an abandoned gas station and a grocery store. What I just learned about the Salton Sea is that it was created on accident about 100 years ago. Somehow they unloaded the contents of a river and it became the Salton Sea. We're also below sea level when we're in this town. Our next stop is Howerin Springs. This is right off the interstate going towards San Diego. You can see these ruins from the interstate. What I did not know was that this was actually a resort town from the late 1800s until the 40s. I'm not sure what this building used to be, but I'm going to guess it was probably a hotel and restaurant. And right across the highway is even more ruins. This was probably where the resort was. It didn't even occur to me till later that there could be rattlesnakes here, so be careful. Our next stop is Otay California. This abandoned place is about 2 miles west of the town, right off the feeder road. It looks like it's an old garage, gas station, and restaurant, all abandoned for decades. I really like the sign on this building. By the way, if you enjoy these videos, consider donating $5, $10, or $20 to your favorite animal shelter. That will make me very happy. Once you leave this area and you head towards San Diego, you're going to be going up some of the wildest interstate in the country. Our next town is Ludo California. Although it's technically a ghost town, it does seem to be pretty modern. It started in 1905 as a train stop. This jail was brought in 1944 to deal with all the drunks. Passenger service lasted until the 60s. Then this building became mostly abandoned except for the cafe, which operated until 1985. Since 2005, it has been brought back to life as a visitor center. And it was this building that brought me to this town to begin with. It is absolutely gorgeous, even better in real life. And right across the street is the post office. You can even see the zip code. "90920. And right next door is this building. The only thing left of it is the fireplace. I absolutely adore this sign. Our next stop is Searles Valley, California. This is probably the most remote town I visited on this journey. The town is known for its isolation and desolation, and it's just southwest of Death Valley. It was established in 1913 as a company town. It was used by the mining company to house the employees. So this town has a very unique history to it. In 1974, the company that bought the mine did not want a company town, and they tried to make everybody leave. There's still a population of 1,716 people who live here. But I'm sure the population was much higher at one time because there's a lot of abandoned buildings here. The town is also close to the Baker Ranch, where Charles Manson and his cult hung out. So it's very likely that Charles Manson had visited this town many times. You know it's bad when even the family dollar store closes down. Our next stop is Randsburg, California. I got here really early in the morning when nobody was out yet. This is a living ghost town with lots of great vibes. I really enjoyed it here. It was a gold mine town that was established in the 1880s, and it still has the look and feel of days gone by. They must get a lot of visitors here because there's an abnormally high amount of businesses that are still open for a town with a population of only 69 people. The community spirit here is very high. Most of these buildings were decorated for Halloween. I really want to come back to this town when everything is open. This building's abandoned. It's called the end of the trail. And here's the old city jail, also known as the Pokey. I can't believe it's just open and you can walk right in. I wonder what he's in here for. Oh, I think we know why she's in here. Now we're going to Tumco, California. This is pretty close to the Arizona border. There isn't really anything here anymore, but they do have a lot of signs to explain the history and a path to lead you to where the town used to be. You're going to end up walking about a mile to get to town and a mile back. Once I walked into town, these were the only things I could still find. I'm not sure what they were, but I have a feeling they had to do with a mine. This is one of the oldest mining towns in the state. It goes back to the 1780s. Then there was a mine that operated from 1892 until 1917, and again from 1937 until 1942. At one point there had thousands of residents. By 1942 there was only 30. I could only find traces of some of the buildings. It's a loop walk. There's an arrow pointing that way. But then I put my drone in the air to see if I missed anything. And sure enough, I did see one building that I missed. And it looks like there's also the foundation for another building in here too. And way back there, there's a gigantic bucket. It was a nice hike. I really enjoyed the area, but there really wasn't that much to see. And finally, there's Afton, California. There's nothing left of this town, but it's in this gorgeous valley. And if you like watching trains, you're going to enjoy visiting here. So even though there's nothing left, I'm just showing you this for your enjoyment. I really hope you enjoyed this video altogether. If you have any questions or comments, please leave in the comment section below. And once again, thank you so much for joining me today.